All right, so we're live on Facebook and YouTube. We got Garin Zina in the house, 18-year-old wonderkin, wonder boy. What's that word? All right, let's see. Here we go. I'm going to pull him up in just 1 second. I'm going to play the intro and share out to the network. If these shows resonate with you, please share. We would appreciate it. How's it going, everybody? Got Garin Zina in the house. Let me pull him up here. He's been on a couple of times.
How you doing, Todd?
What's happening? What's going on? The golden boy.
That's what they used to call me when I was a little kid.
Well, I can see why.
I got an Ethernet cable.
You got an Ethernet cable. Excellent.
Finally.
Excellent. Good choice. So, yeah, man. Sorry I didn't get to say goodbye to you before we left Florida, but we'll get together again at some point. I'm sure, more than once.
Someday, the universe has to have it happen. I mean,
yeah. You said that you when I messaged you, you said, can we talk about anything? And I said, yeah, of course. And so you had something on your mind, and then I saw on your post you said that you put a video out and that you were going to be coming on the show. So what's the subject today?
So I want to make it not polarizing. I want to make it not fearful, and I want to make it not something that makes it feel like there's pressure and encroaching negativity, I guess we can call it. And so the thing the topic of my video today is smart dust, which it's a nanoscale little sensor that is being sprayed throughout everything. And
okay. You just came back. We lost you.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Did it actually just go out again?
Yeah, it went out right when I asked you the question.
Gosh. So what I was saying is the topic of my video today was smart dust, and I wanted to make it as not fearful as possible, because a lot of the technology stuff gets kind of fearful sounding.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't want it to be polarizing in a way that makes people worried about the future or concerned with the intent of the people running those programs. But it's another learning aspect, a learning experience that we have right now. And it's the topic of the video is about how just every single thing and everybody and everything and any part of this physical plane right now is with some form of digital aspect. And that digital is trying to, in a sense, merge with the physical and create a synthetic physical, so that it's no longer the same physical that once was. And yeah, that's about it.
Are you hearing me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm sitting here looking at. Yeah, I can hear you. Your picture's frozen.
Your screen's frozen too, actually.
Yeah, I'm looking on YouTube and Facebook. My picture's frozen, but I can hear you. That's all that matters. I don't know what's going on with that. How weird.
Yeah,
But now I heard everything you said. Now, so let's. I've not heard of this specifically. So fill me in, educate me.
by this, do you mean smart dust?
Yeah.
Okay, so smart dust, they came up with the term back in, believe it was 1992. They wanted to have thought-controlled drone swarms. And so the way that they do that is by creating an ionized or electrified airspace, they then can have radio signals send either commands or receive information back and forth. And so they initially had the idea of weapons. And so they wanted to create nano warfare or just really small scale, almost invisible little particles that can go and do the army's bidding. But it evolved, as all things do when they're initially brought into, I guess you could say testing. And now there's a field of medicine called precision medicine, and a lot of the nano structures are to be used in vaccines, in food, in part of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal is they want to make people eat 10 to 15% less normal meat. And so they have the intent of changing a lot of the food into DNA sequenced specific to your genome food that's essentially smart. And the SMART acronym means self-monitoring and analysis technology.
Yeah.
And so it's strange shit.
So does this tie into psytropic warfare or psytropic?
Psytropic.
Well, like implanting thoughts.
Yes.
Using. Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's the main part of it. I didn't get that deep into that part of it on my video though.
Yeah. So I've gotten. Yeah. I do know a little bit about it. I don't know. I look at it. I don't know. I kind of look at it two ways. One, I look at it. Okay. First of all, we made it. We've dealt with the fluoride, the GMOs, the chemtrails, the list goes on, right? All the metals, which, are tied to what you're talking about because they make us receivers and transmitters and our GPS, all that stuff. But I look at it like, we're raising our frequency individually and then, collectively. Proportionate to the amount of energy the individuals are expanding, are creating or whatever, and so I don't know. I mean, you can talk about CERN, you can talk about DARPA and HARP or whatever all those other ones are, and I don't know. Can they hold back this collective awakening, this energetic force with these, whatever their intentions are, with these man-made things, if you will, to counter our conscious expansion? I mean, can they?
No.
What do you think?
They cannot.
I don't think so.
Their intention isn't to hold it back, it's to do Aikido on it. They want to make our momentum tainted, and they want to distort our intention with like you're saying, the psychotronic or whatever word warfare, like implanted thoughts and stuff like that. If you look at most people, I don't want to say that actually. If you look at most startups, the business has a certain vision, and then once it starts and all of the I guess you'd say collateral, either just difficulties or problems, whatever it is, the business then has to change, and that vision that they had in the beginning can no longer be sustained. It's similar to if you were to want to slowly but surely make a person a little bit more negative after say 1% each day. After 100 days, they'd be very, very different. And so it's I don't think they can stop what's happening collectively because it's like the Renaissance. It's a complete rebirth in all aspects of being because, one, society as a whole right now is kind of missing the soul aspect. It's going into union with the soul. And so those individuals are trying to make it so that the soul that we connect back with is still a little wounded and not, I guess you would say, fully in harmony and balance.
Yeah. It sounds like a microcosmic replica of the whole the whole design of this realm in the last 10,000 years.
Mm,
Since Atlantis, where everything where everything has been set up in a way which I believe we all designed, but
mm-hmm.
somebody's got to carry out the dirty deeds. But I mean, it's like everything in the last not everything, but many things in the last 10,000 years were all leading to the same place, which was basically to stun our growth, to debilitate us to a degree, to keep us from figuring out who we are and all that stuff. But I guess not only is there the factor of the God substance that we are coming into its own awareness, and therefore uh, awareness of its higher sensitivities, skills, and abilities, but there's also the universal energy. I mean, this isn't just an
Mm.
ascension that's only affecting the Earth. It's the solar system, the galaxy, the universes, the multiverses. I mean, I don't think that can be contended with. I don't think, like I always say, let go or be dragged. I mean, I don't think there's any stopping it, especially this year. It just seems like seems like this year, even with everything that's happened, the sovereignty frequency is expanding.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And with it, the shadow is expanding to make the sovereignty expand as well.
Yeah.
Because it's like a pressure cooker. I believe we used that same word last time I was on. Um, it's squeezing so more people can then be in that sovereign state. It's just like when you're squeezing the last little bit of toothpaste out of a thing, you got to press a little harder to get the
Hmm.
residual out.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like we're going through a fast tracked compensation, and we've or not we've, but since this is a collective ascension, collectively there's been a little bit less engagement in the spiritual aspect, but it doesn't mean that on the individual level it hasn't been
Yeah.
um, done. And so really what's happening right now is like all the crazy stuff that keeps popping up in the world and dying down, and then before you know it another domino happens and some new crazy thing. It's
Hmm.
like all of those are little time periods where people are going to undergo specific psychological and emotional changes, where in that time period, if they make that change and change the concept of their self from how it once was, the next thing that they'll be in, because it's stages, it's not one stage and you're done, it's multiple. The
Hmm.
next thing they'll be in will then be a completely different like perspective, where you're going to be able to see a lot more of yourself and what you actually would need to embody or let go
Yeah.
of if you want to accomplish.
That's true. That's very true. And I think that's, if you look at it's such a trip this year, I mean, if you look at the stuff that's coming up collectively, especially like this last 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, this month of
Mm-hmm.
June, it's like everything is collapsing. Even those things that might even seem a bit positive, or that are being portrayed positive, or it's like everything's collapsing, like it's not holding salt.
Like
Like,
false hopes almost.
well, like the financial system's busted. I mean, it's just a matter of the educational system. It's with this whole quarantine and the homeschooling thing, and it's being shattered. I mean, everything just seems to be kind of like the false flag frequency. Like it just
Mm.
20 years ago, 9/11, a lot of us bought it. 3 years ago, Las Vegas shooting and other things that happened, we're starting to go, hey, wait, because I mean, people are putting up pictures of the same people at the same locations. I mean, and I'm speaking not literally, but energetically. It's just like you said. I mean, the shadows are coming out collectively, which means the shadows are coming out, as within, without. And,
Mm-hmm.
and and I love what you said too, because on one hand, there's something to face, but on the other, but if we just look at the doom and the gloom of it, uh, we're going to continue to bathe in that water. But if we look at it as the opportunity that it is, then that's a heck of a proposition, because the energies are so high, and the transformational consequences of somebody doing the work is astronomical. I don't think we can even comprehend what the limits are, if there are any, even in the near future, like say even in the next 6 months of this year. I mean, I think we could see some amazing things.
There's no way to predict how 2020 is going to be. I can tell you it's going to be so different. But something that you said the river. You're either getting you're in the river or getting drugged by it. Earlier you said that.
Mm.
It's like we have metaphorically the river Styx, which if people don't know what the river Styx is, it's a river in hell, or in Greek mythology hell. And it's like we have the river of heaven in front of us and the river of hell. And both of them are flowing, and both are flowing faster and faster and stronger and stronger. But in the end, they both serve the same purpose, which is just to fulfill the quickening. And this quickening, it's not objective, it's completely subjective. And so when you're determining whether you're in the heaven or the hell, which is it's still polarized, you are then pretty much rebalancing the other side, because you're going to, I don't know, there's a lot of different things that I'm noticing that happening with family and other people. It's like almost like a complete um, everybody's looking at everything from a completely different perspective, and it's
Yeah.
taking a step back. That's
It's
what I
like a
meant.
reboot.
Yes, a
Actually,
reset.
it's more than, yeah, a reset. Yeah. Yeah. I remember Morgan told me that 5 years ago when I met her, and I started saying, what's ascension? And, she said the number one word in ascension is reset.
Hmm.
So at any given moment, you can reset. So to me, I love the computer, the tech analogy or metaphors. So the it's like a wipe, or like you're bringing in a new system, like a Windows 10, replaces a Windows 7, but it's individual laptops, and
Hmm.
then the more of them that get online, there's some kind of osmosis, energetic osmosis, where, like you mentioned, family, for instance, somebody that's doing the work and reprogramming, uh, within that circle, of influence, or field of, collective experience in this family, they are affecting the other people in that circle. And sometimes that looks like, you cast light on somebody's shadow and they start projecting on you. And other times, it's my 23-year-old son calling me on the phone, or we had a conversation a few days ago, and he says, "Dad, I'm woke. I can't go back." We've never had this conversation. We've never talked about soulology ever in 10 years. And he calls me up and tells me, "I've been watching the Midnight Gospel. I've been
I
listening
love
to
that
Alan
show.
Watts." Yeah. I just started watching it. He talked about Alan Watts and a few other people. But, I think that's part of what you're describing too. And the thing that's exciting to me about it is he's 23, you're 18, you know, this starts happening with people in the 18 to 25, and it really starts to take hold, man.
Oh, about that, about young people. Also, happy Father's Day. Forgot to say that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The young people. I've seen an immense amount of people posting conspiracy theory stuff on my less spiritual page social medias like Snapchat and
Hmm.
Instagram. I see people posting about Pizzagate and stuff like that. I'm like,
Wow.
God
Young
damn.
people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like 18, 17, some 16, some 19, 20. Just it's spreading, and I don't think people really realize that it's actually happening. But
Yeah.
I wanted to say something. It's not
Hmm.
all positive. It's not all negative. It's not all like, for example, 10 minutes before I got on this show, I was having like so randomly, when your mind starts spinning, and you said that the word ascension is the one of the words for ascension is reset, and you can reset at any point. Literally 10 minutes before I came on this show, I was getting kind of nervous, not about what I was going to talk about, not about the show, but because I didn't have the details and understanding of what was going to transpire. See, I'm a
Mm.
person that likes to know. I like
Mm.
to have things laid out, I guess. And I thought to myself, okay, how am I viewing myself or this situation that's making it so I'm feeling this way? And I realized, oh, I'm making myself have to be something that I'm not, which is somebody that predicts the future. And
Mm.
it, that's just a very small, minute example of what a reset could be, but it happens on a momentary basis. You're going to go left or right,
Mm.
straight or back. You can reset just like that.
True that. Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about. Yeah. At any time. So I got this download about 3 days ago. I went for a long walk, and it came in and said, once you know, something, you're aware and you know it, that knowing, that you can then at that point, in that moment, you can then begin to embody that consciously from that moment on. And the reason that, or the part of it that the reason it came in was because they were saying you don't have to go back and go through all the motions or live through all the, how did I get here, and I didn't know that, and what do I need to cure, and this and that.
It's like a whole cycle.
Yeah, it was just like, once you know, like you guys have gotten to a point now where once you take in that information and it's given to you, like it may be somebody tells me something, or it comes in another way, that from that point on you can utilize that knowledge, and with less importance on the story, say I have a memory of a, you know like say a sexual molestation at 5 years old or something, and in that moment, I realized that that's not me, that I wasn't wrong, or whatever baggage came with it. It's immediately released, and I move on. I don't have to go think about that stuff anymore. The past is gone.
I actually have something about that specific topic. I'm not going to get into details, but an individual that I was very close with recently moved back to where I'm at, and they were telling me about that topic right there, pedophilia, and something that had transpired, and they had a almost detached piece to them about it. And what I realized is all of those terrible, terrible things, every single one of them is, no matter what, the situation, the circumstance, the person, the place, it's always something that's showing you truly and utterly your potential as a soul. Because there's nothing that you can't. If you were to give a rookie a job that somebody that would have to be a veteran would do, would you ever expect the rookie to finish it? They wouldn't. And so it's a test of grit and how much you can actually go like forward as a soul. And person went through some really, really, really shitty things. And all I got to say is, if you're in California and you got kids, make sure those kids are supervised.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of demons.
I'd say that anywhere.
Anywhere, especially
really.
California.
But and this is part of the but this is part of a big part of our trip in this realm. If we're talking literally, because energetically we know we have what we might describe as chi, kundalini, life force energy, sacred sexual vibratory energy. It's a powerful, powerful thing. People are talking about their kundalini awakenings. They're talking about, we had a guy on yesterday, a good friend of mine. He met this lady in Belgium, and they get on camera. She didn't even have any pictures on Facebook, right? And immediately the lower chakras just start lighting up. And this isn't cyber, and this is the real thing, right? But a lot of I would say the primary focus of the conditioning was sexually oriented. So you've got, abuse, rape, molestation, the whole 9 yards, the suppression, the taboo, the dirtiness, and all the stuff that was fed to us, which is the opposite of what it is. It's kind of hard to look at some of that stuff. I've known people. I've had some past memories. I've certainly had some from past lives that have come in to be cleared. And it's a very hard thing to separate, or not to separate, victim, victimizer, good and evil, good and bad and all that stuff. But it is an energetic imprint. It was by design, and it's not an easy pill to swallow. That's probably the toughest one, I think, for me, and I think for most people, especially when you take into account the children, and how prevalent it's been. And this is the stuff that you talked about when you came on, that's coming up for individuals. It's being reflected outside of us too. It's actually a good thing that all this stuff is coming to the surface. Is it going to be easy? is it going to be, it's going to be, it's not, I don't think it's a matter of whether we're going to right, for lack of a better way to put it, right the wrongs. I think the test is going to be, can we maintain our vibration and continue to increase our and expand our frequency when we find out the depth of some of these atrocities? Compassion is going to be huge. So I don't know. It's going to be, a lot of people think the disclosure has to do with, and maybe it does, with Star Family and ships and this and that, but I think it goes a lot deeper than that.
You have to destroy the foundation before you can build a new structure.
Yeah.
And you said something about this, about sex being or not sex, but in that energy way. So there's one thing that you didn't mention that's a big part of that as well: porn. And most young people are terribly, terribly addicted to porn. I haven't really ever said this on anything live, but I discovered porn when I was like 5 years old. Terrible time to find it. I grew up in Kauai, small little island, like, Kauai, and it's what that does to your mind is it makes you pretty much a slave to yourself, and everybody already knows it, because in some way everybody's a slave to their own vices. And so we're the demon and the angel on our shoulder, guiding and restraining ourselves. And so that distorts a person's capacity for compassion as well, because they become almost like a numb,
it's desensitizing.
Precisely.
It's desensitizing.
That word exactly.
There was actually this conversation, I shouldn't mention any names, but so there's your age talking about this. I did a little bit of research on it. And I knew this 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 3 out of 4 hits on the internet were porn related. Okay. I don't know where that number is today, but in some of the stuff that I found, they talked about neurologically how it desensitizes. You're having young men your age that are having erectile dysfunction as a result of, watching way too much porn, right?
And they call it, the young people call it something different. They call it whiskey dick. They blame it on whiskey, but it's something different.
Right. Exactly. Actually, I think at that age it works the other way. But again, we're talking energetics, and we're talking disclosure, and we're talking ascension, and this is a real factor. And going back to what you said at the top of the show too about, the subject in general, which is basically the suppression of our divinity. The kids, not only the kids, but I mean, that's been thrown at us too. Porn's right up there with chemtrails, fluoride, GMOs, whatever, 5G, whatever people want to believe, whatever. It's right there. It's probably sex is the deepest conditioning that we've been affected by.
It's the root.
That's right. And I'm telling you, this last week with these eclipses, in the center of this eclipse this weekend, I purged like crazy. And there were times when I was told basically that I could see them. They were like these little rocks, black rocks that were, I'm speaking energetically, that were coming out of me. And they were just basically showing me and saying to me, this is where you guys are at now. Like the crust is coming out, like the really, the little crevices, the deepest part of it. So I think again, this has been something we've had to contend with. You see the impact it's having on young people, like you're talking about, but these are the same young people that have been fed pharmaceuticals, and they're overcoming that. So I'm going to go back to the beginning and agree with you and just say we won't be stopped. But yeah, it is definitely something we need to consider.
Because there's 2 aspects to shadow integration: the masculine and the feminine. After you and Morgan's presentation at Waves of Light was very enlightening to about many different topics. One, it reinvigorated me to become like a lot more active in shadow work, and it also opened up the world of Harris Gamos, which is pretty fucking interesting. If you don't know about Harris Gamos, look into Todd's content about Harris Gamos. Amazing. But the masculine aspect is the belief system. The feminine aspect is the emotion. And so through having a repressed emotion or suppressed emotion, you then form a distorted belief from that emotion. And so shadow work is both yin and yang. It's both masculine and feminine. And a big part of the kids, what I guess, for example, porn does is it represses a bunch of shame and then guilt, and then maybe even puts in some fear about that. And let's also say that it puts in some despair for not being able to control. That's that's the heart chakra, the solar plexus, the sacral, and the root. What else does it do? It makes you not able to express because you're afraid and shameful of saying that stuff. So it blocks the throat out. It puts lies in your mind, and it makes you start seeing things very differently. Blocks this. And then if you even get far enough into it, it gives you suicidal thoughts and a bunch of other stuff. Oh, yeah. And so all 7.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, and the thing about the Hieros Gamos and sacred sexuality, because I've lived it. And, you know, Morgan and I were talking the other day, there was a period from when we were still in Hawaii until we got to Florida. Almost a year, almost 1 year, which would have been like the third to fourth year of our relationship. We didn't do anything, and there was no, hey, I'm worried, or, you know, the human got tried a few times, you know, like, you know, as a human would, like, I wonder if she doesn't like me or he doesn't like me. But it became very apparent that something had presented itself like it had before we met, which was we both went celibate before we met. Just personal pledges to ourselves. We're not going to dip into that low energy anymore. I'm just not going to do it. And then we meet, and then I took a year. You know, we got married. It was like a week after we got married before we consummated. You know, in those terms. But then there was this period where the relationship itself went into celibacy. And again, I'm not talking literal here. I am, but I'm really talking energy. And I think that, to your point about you got to remove to bring in the new, you know, you got to clear it out. You got to wipe it clean. I think that the energetically speaking, celibacy has to occur and will occur. It can't, because that is the revirginization, right? I mean, it's the purity has to come back, and all that programming and all that stuff that we did. Because anytime you have an encounter in that you know, that pool of poo, all right, whether it be porn or whether it be a casual sex or whatever the case is, you're picking up energy. You're building layers of conditioning. But I think the celibacy thing, energetically, is going to become something that's going to become more known.
I can attest to that.
Yeah.
About it. So I haven't had a girlfriend for 2+ years, something like that. You know how it is when you're young, though. It's not always about the person you're dating. It's kind of as you put, poo, like, I guess. But so I'm a lot less active in that arena than most young people. I could be. I choose not to be, though. And I truly believe from the bottommost part of my heart that it's fueled my mind and my passion, I guess you'd say my benevolence towards humanity in a whole different way that it wouldn't be if I were completely set on obtaining that, because life's just the appeasement of all different hungers. If you're constantly trying to appease an endless bottomless pit, you're never gonna feel good. No.
And the thing about that energy, the reason that the sexual energy, and again, we're talking beyond the human, we're talking the multidimensional, the higher sensitivities, which, as we embody, is bringing in what we do physically and who we do it with. But the reason it's so important is because that is the creation seed. It's the
Mhm.
creative, energetic force. It's what creates. And part of Heliosgamos, part of sacred sexuality, like when we have intimate episodes, which can not necessarily are going to be traditional, typical, what we might think, right? Could be holding hands, laying next to each other, whatever the case is. She is directed to send these golden particles that are created as a result of the intimacy towards typically collaborative efforts, towards our relationship, towards Sology, towards other things. This is how it works. There's been 2 or 3 times that I've seen the room fill up with golden particles, and there's a couple times I was asked, "Where do you want to put this?" So this is the God force, man. I mean, this is creation seed, and this is how we open it up and start to expand it. But I'm with you. I think that's a great that you brought that up. It's great that you brought that up and you're 18 years old. The other 18-year-old that I was referring to talked about, and very similar to you, a couple of relationships, and then just said, "I'm done for right now." The chicks wanted him to choke them. Um, the response was that that's what they see, right, in the porn or whatever, and that just basically, I'm gonna take some time off. I'm not going there. That's a good thing to hear from two 18-year-olds.
Well, about your that word you used, choked. So distortion is has been fabricated to be the new norm.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like oil and water. If you try to pour a new liquid in to clean out the oil, it'll just create some gunk. And so big part of what's happening right now about how you're saying you think that everybody's gonna have to go to to become celibate. It's almost like the attention or the focus is the thing that's being cleansed right now, because on all different levels, mind, body, spirit,
Mm-hmm.
conceptual, intellectual, business, all those different things, they all start and stem from the first thing, which is I am, or your attention or consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like the place in which consciousness is focused, or from the place from which consciousness is focused, has been um, distorted. And so I feel like that's the fundamental shift that's happening right now. And with like the all the riots and everything like that right now, there's a lot of people that are feeding into the negativity and seeing it as a terrible thing and seeing it as a really good thing. Or I don't see it as either. I see it as just another domino, because if you look at it, look at how much positivity has come from it, and
Mm-hmm.
actual like people like we're all together. But then there's
Mm-hmm.
also a bunch of people that have wanted to start a civil war and all that. And so accelerations on both sides,
Yeah.
the hell river and the heaven river. So
Yeah. True.
it's just a mix.
True. Yeah. And then if you and I love what you said too about the distortion, right? Because we woke up. I mean, we know that there was programming, literally programming, TV programming, subliminal programming, suggestive programming with the advertisement, the movies, the whole 9 yards. But the distortion thing, yeah, because, and I'm speaking from my own experience, being very active from 13 till, and I discovered Penthouse magazine when I was probably 12. We didn't have internet, but I started having relationships at 13 till about 50. And in that time period, what ends up happening, it's like a drug. Okay, you go back, or anything else, and what you used to consume or experience
No longer sates
no
you.
longer satisfies you. So I just kept going, and I kept going, and I kept going, and I went deep. I went as deep as you can go, pretty much. And it was devastating. It was humiliating. It was nearly, it was crippling. It was nearly, nearly took me. And I mean, took me out, but now I see, the equation. I see it. And if there's 18-year-olds, and I know two now, that have said, I'm going to use, and that's what you were saying earlier, as a result of you being celibate, your sexual energy, your creativity is expanding, and you're putting it into other places. And that's phenomenal. And that's the kind of thing that will occur for anybody. Yeah.
And it's what's so interesting about it to me is that it's not something that's like a all it's not a all in or nothing. It's you when you are in that state and you are pretty much, I guess you could say, choosing not to be distorted, you then reap the fruits of that state of consciousness. But say you were to choose to go down and, I guess you'd say, descend into the lower, more animalistic primal centers, that same thing that you'd be expressing would be the same I am. And so it's really, well, what it is that you have to do in order to determine what is best for you is just close your eyes and say, what from how I view myself and my concept of myself, what best serves me.
Yeah.
And if you feel one thing yet you go another direction and you're consciously tearing yourself in two, don't be mad at yourself when you feel depressed.
That's right. We had a guy on yesterday, and he actually, I met him in Florida. He came down to Florida, Stephen Savage. He just came down. We hung out for a day or two, and so then on the way over here, I stopped in just outside of Atlanta. I stopped at his house, and so we hung out, and then we had, he's a very cool guy, very much like you. I mean, very introspective, and so when we left, he went and bought me lunch, and he said, well, I'm going to go. I've got to go meet this chick. Anyway, long story short, he came on the show yesterday and he talked about how about 2 weeks ago, something just came down. So evidently he'd been going to a lot of these dating sites and he's been having, casual encounters. And about 10 days ago, he just said, you know what, I can't do it anymore. But it's desensitizing me. It's just not in my best interest. And immediately he gets into connection with this lady from Belgium who doesn't have a picture on Facebook, and they end up connecting like this. I was telling you earlier, but this is what happens. This is that reset that you were talking about earlier. In the moment, he reset, and immediately the universe reciprocated and offered him the opposing polarity vibration, and he experienced Hieroskamos without consciously intending to. And this is what happens. And I think one of the things that's happening now, as you talk about the two rivers flowing, is that they're flowing faster, and that instant manifestation aspect of our experience is faster too. It's faster too. So if you want a 2x4 across the head, you can get one real easy just by not listening to yourself or not honoring yourself,
or for hating yourself. You were saying it's desensitizing when after he kind of expressed it in that way after he went out to go for whoever it was, and that's a big aspect of it. Is it makes you because of your own internal distortion, shame, guilt, hate, self-hatred, whatever it is.
Judging.
It makes exactly judgment specifically. It makes you literally like you embody something completely different than what you would intend for yourself. And you mentioned Hieroskamos happening unintended for the individual after. I just got back from Omaha, Nebraska. I visited my brother 2 weeks ago, and one of his friends was talking to me about some spiritual stuff. And he was like, bro, it was really weird. He was like, I don't really know how to explain this, and you're probably going to think I'm crazy. He was like, but it was like I started having sex with my mind. He was like, it was like our souls were connected. I was like, whoa, you just mentioned something I learned about recently.
Yeah.
And he was like,
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was saying he was saying that it was like the most strange thing he's ever experienced, and I was like, "That's it,
dude."
For you,
it is strange. It is strange. I'm telling you, except to two things. One is I went into the relationship with Morgan, even though I'd made the choices I'd made, including being celibate, and obviously knew I was to be with her and so on. I still had these patterns, that you don't even think about. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't even think about. You just start, and you have this. You're supposed to do this. As a man, you're supposed to do this. You're supposed to do that, and it's performance.
Mm-hmm.
So she'd tell me, "You're not performing on me," and I'd be like, "Okay." So then I would try, and no, you're not. But it went so deep until I finally got to the point where I was like, I don't know what to do. She even said to me one day, "You don't know what to do." I said, "No, I don't. I don't know what to do. I don't even feel like I have any balls. I don't even feel like I have a lingam." I mean, it's just like, so my point is that there was an evolution to it. And to the point of your story, the first time we experienced physical herioscamos, because we did herioscamos like this when we weren't even on camera. She wouldn't get on camera with me. And, but we would talk on the phone or even through messaging, and we could actually, get there through the ethers, in the ethers. But the first time it happened physically, we were in Kauai. It wasn't intended. We laid down, we put our hands together as we always do. And then the energy, the life force started coming. And first she started to have soulgasms running through her chakras. And this went on for about 10 minutes. And then all of a sudden I started. And I thought, well, wow, is this sacred sexuality? Is this what it's going to be like? We just put our hands together and then we just start having these soulgasms all through our body. But then it went on and on. And I guess where I'm going with it is we're here merging the physical and the non-physical, and this part of it in the purest intimate opportunities in a relationship are not excluded from that. And I'm living proof of it. And I think this, to me, this has been a big surprise for me.
This
And
life or this
this part of it, because the sexual trauma and the sexual journey and evolution and all the crap and the porn and the casual sex and the wildness and and I mixed in drugs and alcohol and the whole 9 yards. So it really gets distorted. And then to go celibate and then to like lose your sexuality, especially as a man, like, if you take away the man's sexuality, I mean, this is in the old programming. What does he have? And so then you start over, but it's a very genuine, innocent, powerful, and in my opinion, it has that Trinity aspect. It has that third energy is there. It's the two people, but there's this third energy that's been built by the love, by the equality, and it's what your friend was describing.
And that energy is similar to unity. It's like, or transcendence, or just harmony, whatever you want to call it. It's two energies making a new energy, and that it's like a child in a way. And what you're doing in life is going through the inner child and be living as the inner child, and then the teen and the adult, and then yada yada yada. But then part of that journey is to relearn to be the inner child as well.
Yeah.
And that's the most difficult part, because in relearning you have to go through the muck, and that's when people have midlife crises. That's when they get suicidal. That's when they
yeah
and
yeah I think there's a lot of people out there who have done a significant amount of work, and I think as a result of that it is, the road's not as rough. In other words, there's some collective energetic barriers or gateways, or whatever you want to call it, or blockages that have been busted open by people in all different aspects of the collective experience that we have. And and I think going back to what you were saying earlier, I mean, because if I look at my kids, 6 kids, and I told them, I was pretty open. So, I said, hey, I know what goes on, and, and I would have these conversations with them, the sex, drugs, rock and roll, the whole 9 yards. But when I looked at the magnitude of the program of pharmaceuticals to these children, I was like, wow.
especially
Now I look at it and think, wow, they can't be stopped I mean, they're actually 18 years old. You're 18 years old. You know, Morgan's son Jordan's 18 years old. You should hear the conversations they have. You know, my kid just called me. He's 23. You know, and I didn't ask him, but I bet he's not active sexually. I bet he told me, he said, I'm spending all my time alone. You know, and I'm just, this is what I got to do right now.
I lost my V card when I was 15. I was active till like 17, and then I stopped.
Yeah.
But you said something a second ago. God, what was it?
Yeah.
You said something amazing that produced something in my mind.
We'll get it back.
Yeah.
We'll get it back.
Oh,
yeah.
There we go.
So did you get it?
Yes.
No, that's
so
okay.
Part of having all the young people so immersed within the pills and opiates and all those different things is that opens the field, their energetic field, to literally be possessed.
Yeah.
And it's not a fun path.
No, I never was big on pills, and I did everything else. But I knew, you know, going into, you know, as my kids started getting to you know, young adult, I told them that, you know, I said, you know, this does this, you know, if you're going to do something, come tell me. I'll be there to watch, or whatever the case is, even if you're going to get high. But what I did tell them was stay away from the pills, because I watched a lot of my friends go through that. And I'm talking about everything from steroids to, you know, speed to, you know,
oxys and stuff like
yeah,
that.
Valium. I mean, not Valium, the old one.
What are those?
Quaaludes, you know, all that stuff.
Yes.
But and then I can speak from my own experience as well, that there was a particular drug that I did not very much of, meth. Okay, that I was not me, and desensitized is an understatement. And then the distortion gets inflated. So any shadow that you have, anything like that you have, you're going to really be pushed out there to act it out, or whatever the case is. You know, in Nazi Germany, they fed the Nazi prison camp guards amphetamines, meth, so that, and for the purpose of desensitizing them. Yeah,
I did not know that.
Yeah, and they fed the prisoners fluoride to dumb them down. Yeah, so this has been going a long time, and we're it doesn't matter. We're still going to kick their ass, or kick the ass, whatever you want to call it.
Also, for everybody listening, I'm not speaking from a place of experience when I talk about pills. Florida is the pill capital of the United States, so there's a lot of fucked up stuff here.
Yeah, I know there is. So, all right, man. I don't know what happened to the camera, man. My camera's been messed up the whole time.
It says that your network bandwidth is low right now.
That would be yours.
It's weird though, because on my screen it says Todd Medina's.
Oh, that's weird. I got full bars over here.
Huh. It said that like 20 minutes ago for the first time, though. It kind of closed down like 30 seconds ago.
Well, maybe we're gonna have to take a look at the service. Maybe that's what happened, because it's supposed to be the best service. But anyway, we'll figure it out. I'll talk to Morgan about it. So how can we support you? You got your channel. What's the channel? Is it under your name? YouTube
My
channel?
YouTube channel is Garin Zina, GARIN ZINA.
Yeah.
Garin Zina. And I just posted a new video called Smart Dust, Tech Evolution from Smartphones to Smart Dust.
Right.
It's a big aspect of the coming fourth industrial revolution. I'd highly suggest you check it out. Right
on. And if you get up to Arkansas, or your mom and dad do, or you're heading this way, let us know. Let us know. Okay.
Absolutely. I plan to. They have a beautiful state capital there. They have amazing capitals around.
Dude, they call it the natural state. It's just beautiful everywhere. It's laid back and chill. It's very cool. Very cool. And
definitely
cheap.
Have to visit.
Very inexpensive. Thank the gods.
Gods. You say gods too? My mom says gods, plural.
Yeah. I'm talking about us. Yeah. You take care. We'll do it again. I'll reach out to you. Let me know if I can help you in any way. Okay.
Thank you, Todd. It's amazing talking to you every time. You have a nice time. Thanks for doing what you're doing. Thanks for being a light, you know?